is there anything in this that politicians now are only trying to appeal to the older generation because it's beginning to look a lot like an election?
I think you're completely right. I think this is all kind of prizes for the boomers, and we've absolutely forget Gen Z, but also millennials as well. You know, all the policies we've seen over the last few weeks, and it has been this kind of abundance of new ideas, hasn't it, as we very much near an election next year, has all been about shoring up the much older people's vote, and also older, wealthier people. You know, inheritance tax is something that only really afflicts, I think it's 4% of people in this country, you know, the very, very wealthiest. But it's been all about kind of giving them reasons to vote Conservative next year, and really forgetting the fact that there are generations and generations of us who have got to kind of deal with this and pay for it. I think the only policy we've seen that kind of impacts young people is around the baccalaureate, so changing our A-level system, which is a completely kind of half-baked idea. It's been mentioned a few times by Rishi, but never any kind of solid plans as to how we'd implement it. You've touched on the abandoning our commitments to net zero and shortening, you know, and extending the timeframes we've got to save the planet, which doesn't appeal particularly to young people, and very few credible plans on how to build houses, which is an issue that we know is at front of mind for lots of young people. So really abandoning kind of the Gen Z millennial manifesto in favour of, you know, those older people from the southeast of England who are very wealthy and probably were going to vote Conservative anyway. So I think, yeah, we've abandoning young people for, you know, to shore up a vote that was always going to be theirs.
Well, it seems to be across politics, though. Let's take some of those policies in detail. So, for example, inheritance tax. We hear, not confirmed yet, that this may be scrapped at some point in the future. If you're watching or listening at home, make sure you keep living, because I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But we hear that's going to be scrapped. Arguably, even though it's the most hated tax in the country, by the way, I hate it. I think it's the most natural thing in the world to want to pass on what you have worked hard for your entire life to your children or to charities or to other family members. I think that's completely natural. Even though it's the most hated tax in Britain, arguably, it is redistributive in the fact that, you know, this generation, known slightly pejoratively as boomers or the baby boom generation, have benefited from all of those massive increases in house prices. So to take a bit back from them and use it, for example, to build houses for younger people, affordable homes in cities and towns around the UK, is quite progressive. But it doesn't seem to be the way either Rishi Sunak's going, and of course we haven't actually heard any criticism, particularly from the Labour Party, that they're going to do much different, have we?
No, well, you are right on that, and there is this sort of, we're in this sort of slightly weird situation where the Tories sort of announce something and then Labour sort of refuse to sort of commit or discredit it straight. You know, we've also seen it with HS2, you know, that they would like to see it continued but can't guarantee that they would commit to it were they to win next year. So they need to kind of figure that out. But you're completely right, you know, the inheritance tax plays to a very small amount of people, and it also only perpetuates wealth within people who already have wealth. It doesn't do anything to kind of, you know, make it easier for other people to get on the housing ladder. It just kind of pulls the ladder up from behind people. So, you know, it definitely is a tax that should be looked at.